Fnaf Pizza Sim is the last original Fnaf game. Every game since has made some kind of deviation, so since this game was the last one with that classic formula, Scott really wanted to perfect the formula before moving on. And, he kinda did it. So without any further ado, let's dive straight in. Yep, this is about what I was expecting.
2, 1.
Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, or Fnaf Pizza Sim, feels like a big entry. It's not just the next game or just another mechanic you repeat for 5 nights and you're done. This game feels far more important, and it is. However, to subvert expectations, Scott really didn't advertise this game at all, and then it just came out for free, and it looked like this. A basic arcade game about serving pizza. But it begins to get glitchy and then cuts to black before then revealing a broken, bizarre version of Baby. This opening is amazing. It makes you feel a bit disappointed just seeing a simple minigame, but then the juxtaposition seeing a 3D modeled baby sitting at a desk is terrifying. It looks so cool and makes you excited to see what's gonna happen next. But what's next is a bit more complicated than you'd assume. Instead of having one mechanic repeated each night like Fnaf's 1 to 4, and instead of having a unique mechanic for every night to keep it fresh like Sizzle Location, Pizza Sim combines the two, having the same mechanics repeated every night, but there's a lot of mechanics keeping it fresh. It has the best of both worlds, making it feel really satisfying to play. I think this style is far more fun than any game we've gotten so far, since it doesn't get old and stale from repetition, but it also doesn't have bizarre difficulty balancing due to introducing new mechanics. Each section lasts as long as you want it to, usually not lasting too long or being too short. But what are these sections like? Well, let's play them. The first style is this tycoon-like game. You run your own pizzeria and have to buy different plates, stages, animatronics, attractions, along with anything else that you think would help. At the start, you're only given $100 and likely couldn't buy much. However, as you play, your restaurant gets better and better and you'll get more and more customers, and thus make more and more money. You see, your restaurant is graded within 5 areas: atmosphere, health and safety, entertainment, bonus revenue, and liability. What they do isn't explicitly said to you, but you kinda get a sense of what they do as you play. Atmosphere causes more customers to enter your restaurant, and thus you want it as high as possible to earn more revenue. The same is true for entertainment, though I'm not exactly sure what the difference is between them. Both are good though. Bonus revenue allows you to earn more money, not by having more customers, but by having your customers do more things like play arcade machines. You also have health and safety that lowers your liability, and you also have liability. A high liability can get you sued, and it's actually pretty funny. The things you're sued for are usually ridiculous and funny enough to warrant you reading them. Here's a few I got. He fell from a ride, stood up, and fell down again. The lack of responsiveness on the part of the staff has caused him to become secluded in his home, afraid to go out in public again out of fear of being ignored. I love this one because it's just like the game itself, where it subverts your expectations. Or what about this one? She witnessed the head of an animatronic fall off and roll across the ground. When asked if she was okay, she screamed. Staff asked the head not to ask any more questions. I love how funny these games have become. There's quite a lot of humor, and I just can't help but smile. Like there's this new animatronic that's just shown to be comedic. Like he dances when you get a paycheck, and he's shown sitting at a desk when you get a lawsuit. His name's Helpy. I love him. You can also play some of the minigames you buy, and a lot of them are played by Helpy in the animation. It's just funny when he makes a shock face when you die, or when you miss the ball pit and he dies. Oh yeah, almost forgot about that. You can play the minigames. This may seem pointless, but it actually raises your Faz rating and earns you more money. This means even on your first day, you can play minigames over and over and get more and more money, and thus buy more stuff and get a huge restaurant before the end of the first day. This is doable, and it's super fun when you actually learn enough about the game to actually do it. You learn what games give you the most points and the best way to optimize your point gain per day. You only have 10 tickets a day, so you can only play 10 times. So you need to optimize it. I really enjoyed this system because it actually has you do something to earn money but doesn't progress the game. If I had one issue with it, is that sometimes it can take a while. Like the first big moneymaker that I found in the game was Midnight Motorist, earning over 2,000 points each time. So I played it over and over and over and over again, and it got a little boring. Eventually I found this rocket game that could earn over 5,000 points if I'm good enough, so then I played that one over and over and over again. I just kept playing the same games over and over again, and it got a little boring. However, you do have a max of only 10 games per day, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So overall, I still liked it. I really enjoyed this tycoon style. I like the mechanic of buying new stuff and upgrading my restaurant, and I even enjoy making money off the games. I also like the process of trying to reduce your liability. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy trying to make everything everything better after each night and attempting to maximize my profits. One way you could attempt to make more money is through advertisement. That just adds poster and banners around your restaurant and they pay you for it. It can really be helpful and doesn't do much bad in this section, but it will hurt you in the next one. But we'll get back to that. Once you're done editing your restaurant, it's time to let people come in and eat. But while they're eating and playing, you're in the back, working on things in the background. You just sit in the back with an old computer, ordering plates, cups, printing posters, unclogging toilets from a computer somehow. This section feels like the earlier games, where you're stuck in a security room monitoring everything while trying not to die. However, I'm not sure if it's just me or what, but this game felt far more confusing than the other FNAF games. Here, you get more animatronics each night, which is how the game gets harder. They climb around the vents connected to your left and right. If they enter your room, you die. So to prevent this, you're given a few techniques. You have a motion tracker, which when you activate it, tells you when something moves. An audio lure, similar to FNAF 3, where you attempt to move the animatronics away from you. A flashlight you could shine down either of the vents, and by doing so, you prevent them from entering that side, as long as you stay there. And finally, you can turn off your equipment, including your PC and your fan. Technically, you could use a secondary ventilation system, but I never used it because it just felt pointless. But these few systems you have to save yourself connect together in brilliant ways, keeping you always moving, always worried, and always at fault if you die. Like to finish the night, you have to get your tasks done, and to do that, you have to load them. But you have to stay on them to continue them loading. You can't check the motion tracking or move the audio lure, you just leave it be. This means you want to check the motion, see where they are, place an audio lure to distract them, and then start a task. Then turn to stare down one of the sides to prevent anything from coming in. Once the task is done, you check again and repeat until all the tasks have been completed. This sounds repetitive, but I enjoy it because of all the unpredictable things that could happen. You could have an animatronic on your left and your right, so you place the lure on your left to distract him, and you look right to distract the other one. But the left guy might ignore the lure or get away from it and come anyway, so you'll need to be careful. You also sometimes get audio cues that an animatronic is next to you, so you'll have to stop everything and stop them. Also, if something's on your side, do you just stare or do you try to start a task? You can also turn off your fan, lowering your noise, also making animatronics less likely to enter. But if it gets too hot, you die. So you have to time it well enough for when you turn it off and back on so that you don't die. You can also turn off your computer, which makes it even less likely they enter, but then you're not getting anything done. You also have different kinds of tasks that take different amounts of time and make different amounts of noise, so you have to choose carefully about which task you want to do and when. It all connects very well and leads to an experience that always had me moving and doing something, where I always felt in control, but also like everything could go crashing down at any moment. Also, that can happen. Yep, when you accept an advertisement, it allows your computer to play ads when you're trying not to die. This feels terrible since it prevents noise, prevents you from looking left and right, and prevents you from doing anything else. But you know that it's all your fault. You have no one to blame but yourself. It's just so cool how the different phases connect. Like, you could also save money from the tycoon phase in order to buy upgrades in the office phase. Or you could buy things in your restaurant to improve it, making you more money later. So you get to choose, do you want the upgrades now or wait till later when you have more money? You get to choose, and you get to take that risk, and it's so cool. You also get to choose exactly what animatronics you want to add into your building, though you don't make that decision till the next phase. The salvage phase is a really creepy idea that no wonder that's what the game started with. You have to sit across the table from a killer robot who wants to kill you, and play audio files that make the animatronic mad. You're given a taser and told to zap it whenever it moves to calm it back down, but you don't want to use it too much. So when it starts and the audio plays, you just stare at the animatronic, and it's creepy. The audio is creepy, the animatronic is creepy, this section is creepy. Once the audio stops, you pick up your paper and you write down whether it moved or not, and then you look back. And that is when it moves. It moves sometimes when you look away, and when you look back to see if it moved, it's now staring at you, and it's actually terrifying. So you zap it, and you keep going, hoping that it doesn't really move too much, or you could die. It's really tense and scary. However, you could also just bypass this entire section. When it starts, you're asked if you want to salvage, or if you don't, you could just not. But also, there's a pretty big payout, so just like the ads, you might be tempted. However, salvaging them will let them into the building, making the office job a lot harder. And if you try to salvage and fail, you get no money, but you still let it in. It's a cool risk versus reward system, and I really like it. And this system is also tied to the tycoon section, because the animatronics may be hiding in some of the bulkier items, so if you buy one, an animatronic might be hiding inside, and thus, you've just let them in. Which means if you actually let the animatronics inside before the salvage minigame, then when you get there, there will be nothing there, because you already let them in. It's creepy and also awesome. But after that, you're put back in the tycoon area to repeat the game for 6 nights. Yeah, 6, not 5. Each day gets better and better with more minigames and more revenue to spend, while each office night gets harder and harder with more animatronics. And each salvage Well, unless you buy the bulk items, it kind of just stays the same. I love this gameplay because I really enjoyed making my restaurant, but I had to progress the next day in order to get more money, and I also had to salvage again for money. So then I could buy more stuff and different stuff and upgrades and do all this cool stuff. All the sections have their problems, but most can be fixed. The Tycoon, like I've said before, can waste your time, but with enough experimenting, I found that the ball pit, which gives you 10,000 points, is super quick, which kind of fixes the problem altogether. I also love how I couldn't even imagine buying it on my first playthrough since it was just so expensive, but later when I got better at the game, I bought it really quickly. It just felt awesome. The Office also has its problems, that being with the difficulty, though kinda not at the same time. I found myself enjoying the difficulty because I was so excited to win. Sometimes, or often, I was very irritated, but as I played, I learned more and more strategies, meaning I died less often. Maybe it is a bit too hard, but still, I liked it. However, the salvage minigames, well, you're only given 3 shocks before you start losing revenue, which you don't want, meaning most people want to save them, but you really only have the option to shock the animatronic 4 times. There's 5 audio files, and there's no reason to shock them before the first one or after the last one. That means there's just 4 gaps where you could shock the animatronic, meaning you only have to get through 1 track without zapping anything. And that's it. Sounds easy, right? The animatronics have different stages slowly leading closer to you, but they could just skip a stage and go straight from not moving to about to kill you. And some animatronics don't really have clear stages, meaning if it's in stage 2, you won't know if it's in stage 2, 3, 4, or I don't know, 5, I don't know how many there are. Also, in the later nights, it moves nearly every time, causing a problem. If you can only zap it 3 times, but it moves 4 times, then you'll only want to zap it when it's in the late stages. But since you can't tell which stage is late, you might decide not to zap it, assuming that it's early on, but oops, it turns out that it's not early on, and it's the last stage and you're dead. It just feels really hard to read and a bit annoying. I think it's a cool addition, but it's very frustrating, even more than The Office. If I gave these sections one thing, it's that they make the characters look very creepy. This game probably has the most characters out of any FNAF game up to this point, and they're all really cool, creepy, or funny. The 4 main animatronics are those that you salvage and that attack you in The Office. There's only 4 of them, meaning yes, even though there's 6 nights of the other modes, there's only 4 nights of the salvage mode. But it does mean that we get fewer animatronics attacking us, which is sad because they all look awesome. Molten Freddy is like innard, but not held together, and it's just a big pile of wires, and it's really unique. It's also got blood on them, which is wow. Scrap Baby also looks cool, being a version of Baby that's rebuilt out of the trash found in its location. It's a cool idea, and she looks really creepy because of it. I mean, just look at her. Lefty has a different approach, that being not to look dangerous, but to look uncanny like the original ones. Though, as I've said before, these animatronics aren't really uncanny to me anymore, so she's not too scary. Though I do think she looks cool. And she even has some cool lore to her, but we'll get back to that later. She also does look creepy in the salvage minigame, because again, this minigame is creepy. Also, you may have noticed that I skipped one, and you all know why. Scrap Trap, I don't even know. Everyone hates this design, and yeah, it's terrible. Springtrap is still the creepiest animatronic in the series, and Scrap Trap doesn't even come close. His forehead is too big, it makes it seem like he's balding. His eyes seem too cartoonish and too alive, I guess. And he even talks now, which kind of ruins the fear he had before.
I always come back.
Like, tell me, which is scarier? Sitting in a room with a dead body trapped inside an animatronic which you think you saw move out of the corner of your eye? Or just like a serial killer standing in front of you? Obviously the first one, because you're unsure if they're alive, or can move, or can be reasoned with. And if it does move, does it have a mind? Has he gone insane? Now he just sounds like we could just have a conversation with him, which kind of ruins the whole scariness. He also sounds not like a serial killer, but like our cartoon villain with a very over-exaggerated villain accent or something like that.
What a deceptive calling. I knew it was a lie the moment I heard it, obviously. But it is intriguing nonetheless.
He kind of sounds like a snake. I hate it. Keep him quiet, fix his head and eyes, and maybe a bit of his body, and bam. Perfect. The suit doesn't even make sense in the store because, like, why did he gain feet? I don't, why? However, they are not the only animatronics, since now we have a restaurant you need to buy animatronics to put inside, and thus there is a ton. There's the trash in the gang, which are obviously supposed to be comedic, and they are. There's the Mediocre Melodies, which is a great name, and I just love their designs. They look like the FNAF 1 animatronics, but as different animals, or just another bear, I guess. I think it's a cool idea. We also have the Rockstar animatronics, which are they're not too interesting. They're just more versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. I mean, Lefty does technically count as a Rockstar animatronic, but she's more original. These are just more and they're fine. I'm glad they're here, but they're just not that interesting. Finally, there's the posh pizzeria animatronics, which cost a ton of money and are mostly callbacks. Like El Chip, which is a reference to Scott's previous game, Chip and Sons Lumber Company. Or Funtime Chica, which is a reference to the fact that Chica wasn't in Scissor Location. Both of these are cool ideas, and I really like them. We also have Music Man. I'm sorry, what? Just a random spider guy with symbols? Why? Not referencing anything. Just here, because why not? Okay. We also have some side animatronics that don't really count as animatronics, but they are. Like Candy Cadet, who gives us candy and tells us creepy stories, who is just a random alien-looking thing. Or the security puppet, who looks awesome and cool and I love him. But yeah, I told you the game had a lot of animatronics, and a lot of it seems to call back to old stuff. Like the mediocre melodies matching the masks in the Happiest Day minigame. Or the puppet not having tears because it's not possessed yet. That's just cool. This game just calls back on so much of the franchise, not only the lore, but also the mechanics as well. However, most of the mechanics comes from one game in particular, Scissor Location. In that game, we had a section where we had to load things on the computer while having to stop and make sure Finding Freddy leaves us alone. This is a segment that I thought was really flawed, but it's what the entire office section is based on, and it's improved a lot. Or what about those repair sections where you were just up close and personal with animatronics? Well, here we are too. Or the shocking mechanic that I wish you had more control of. Well, now you can do it whenever you want. I feel like Scott didn't like a lot of the mechanics in Scissor Location, like the unique nights. So he took what he liked and did it much better in this game. It's a cool idea, and I really like it, especially since this game is so much better. One mechanic that multiple Fnaf games have done is split endings, and just like every other mechanic this game has copied, it did it better. The other games are fun, and you do enjoy replaying them, but this one does replayability the best. Not only do you get better and better at the mechanics, but you also learn more about what you should buy. Do I increase atmosphere first or entertainment? Should I buy an item with liability? Can I make it safer? What minigames give the highest scores? You can also make different decisions and take different risks. Should you risk getting the sponsor or letting the animatronics in? Maybe you decide to ignore the animatronics altogether and just focus on the tycoon side. That's actually exactly what I did my first playthrough, and it was great. The game also has a number of endings, all of which encourage you to play again. Each one also has their own funny corporate cutscene, which adds a lot of charm to the game. When I first played, like I said, I ignored the animatronics and just used the tycoon mode. The ending I got was the bad ending, where I'm told I didn't fulfill my contract and the end. It's very abrupt, not even a corporate cutscene. I don't think it's even counted as an official ending, it's more just like the neutral ending. A similar ending occurs when you do even less, and don't mess with any of the modes, not even the tycoon one. When it ends, you're called lazy and receive the certificate of mediocrity. There's also the lore keeper ending, which isn't really an ending, so I don't know why it's counted. Basically, you just beat 3 minigames and then beat the game. It'll end the exact same, but then you should picture of gravestones and bam, you've got a new ending. Also, the gravestones probably correspond to the missing children's incident, maybe, I don't know. It also doesn't give you the certificate in the cutscene or anything, it just appears. Again, it doesn't feel like an ending, but it's technically counted as one. The insanity ending is the most out there. We have to buy an egg thing, then press the power button in your office, but not the power button on your keyboard. No, the one on the monitor in game. Weird. This ending has Henry, who used to work with Afton, who's the purple guy, and you know that already. He tells you some random bits of lore about how he wants to end everything. We also see blueprints of things we've seen before, like the Scoopa or Lefty, who we find out is designed to kidnap the puppet in order to bring them here and kill them to set her free, which just makes Lefty even cooler. But once you find this all out, the company calls you insane, so no one will believe you, and thus you can't share their secrets. Mwahahaha. So yeah, good ending. Or not the good ending, is, you know what I mean. There's also the bankruptcy ending, where you just get sued too much until you go bankrupt, and that's about it. And the blacklisted ending, which is the only ending I didn't get. It requires you to have a very high liability, and I just didn't get it because it requires a lot of luck, and I'd already spent hours playing the game, so I just stopped. But maybe I'll go back to that one. But finally, there's the main ending, the good ending, and likely the best in the game. This just has you play normally, where you set up the tycoon, salvage animatronics, and just keep playing. At the end, well, Baby tries to kill you. She thinks they all met up to kill you, I guess.
Now we can do what we were created to do and be complete.
Not sure exactly what she thought, but before she could finish her plan, she's cut off.
Connection terminated.
This is Henry again, getting what he wanted and ending all of this. He goes into a monologue about everything that's happened, and images of the games and minigames flash before your eyes. He then explains all of you will die in the building, the animatronics, you, and even him, and even says a specific goodbye to William Afton himself.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
This ending is epic. The monologue is cool, the visuals are interesting, and the ending seems to wrap up everything. All the spirits are set free, and even you and Henry die alongside them. And with that, the game ends, and it was awesome.
End communication.
This is also the only ending to roll credits, which I like, and it gives you a moment to attempt to wrap your head around everything that just happened, because a lot happened. And the end. But we're not done yet. There's still the lore to talk about, and yeah, there's a lot. This game is meant to wrap up everything that has happened, and it kinda does. There's 3 main minigames to talk about, each one with its own mysteries. Midnight Motors has a secret side area where a purple car drives down, is not let into juniors, and then goes home. At home, Yellow Guy sees a person sitting in a chair and a kid who seems to run away and sees 2 animatronic feet outside the window. We can also find a secret side area with a hidden pile of dirt for seemingly no reason. What does all this mean? No idea. Is Yellow Guy supposed to be Purple Guy even though he's a different color now? It would explain the purple car and the pile of dirt being something that he buried like a body or animatronic from the books. But we're not talking about the books. Maybe it's Henry, which explains the color and lets us assume that the footprints outside are Purple Guy in costume. But then what's the pile of dirt and why does he have a purple car? Also, what is Juniors? It's clearly supposed to explain something but manages to explain nothing at all. I mean, MatPat's been going back and forth on this for years, saying it's both Henry and Afton.
Which would make Orange Guy Purple Guy, otherwise known as William Afton. You know, Orange Guy from Fnaf 6? I'm gonna say he's Henry.
And saying Juniors is definitely not a bar and must be important.
Fnaf 6 was all about tying up loose ends. He's not just gonna throw in a random bar to establish that the Mustard Man is an alcoholic or anything.
Just to later say that it is a bar and isn't too important.
Junior's, the local bar, wasn't far from his son's gravesite.
It's frustrating, and I kind of want to figure it out, but also I've just given up on lore for now. Maybe I'll come back, but man, I don't want to have a headache. We also have Free Maze, where we see sprites turn into dead dogs and see a girl start to cry and Springtrap standing behind her. And then he says, he's not really dead, he's over here, follow me. I mean, I assume he's talking, but they are different colors, so maybe not. It's also safe to assume that he's talking about the dead dog, but then why is he over there? Is he alive? Is he an animatronic? It's frustrating. All of this is frustrating. The final minigame is the security puppet, where we're told to not let a specific kid leave. Eventually, the kid's outside, and we have to go get him. However, it's raining, and the puppet starts malfunctioning before finding the child and laying beside them, and they both die together. This one is pretty cut and dry. The kid was killed, the puppet lied next to them, and the kid possessed the puppet. That's it. We also see tire tracks, which leads us to assume that William Afton must have killed her. But that's about it. There's not much to speculate here, which is nice because finally something is just easy. I mean, I could mention that Midnight Motors is titled Later That Night, implying that it comes after this minigame, which means this is Henry after the murder. Or maybe it's just Henry and the murder explains why the kid went missing, because he went to Freddy's to be murdered. I don't know. This minigame doesn't really answer much, but it is still interesting to see. But that's about it. There are a few more interesting things that aren't exactly minigames, like Candy Cadet that tells us different stories about 5 things being combined for some reason. The most common theory I've heard is that William Afton took the 5 original animatronics and made the Funtime animatronics with their combined remnant. That's the main thing I've heard that people gotten from Candy Cadet stories. But it does cause many questions. We see him dismantle them in FNAF 3, so that's gotta be where he fused them, but then he dies, so how did he make the fun times? Also, if it's true, we never got to see what happened to the spirits in the toy animatronics. This whole thing also contradicts the Happiest Day minigame where we see the souls set free. So I think the first set of 5 kids in FNAF 1 were set free, and the other 5 from FNAF 2 is what ends up in the Funtime animatronics. So instead he must have gotten the toys off screen and then made the fun times and then tried to do the same with the mains but then died. That's my theory. That's what I think makes the most sense. It's annoying, but I don't know. This game... Okay, it's enough of this game. It has a ton of cool ideas and mechanics and is always fresh. It also has so many reasons to replay, and I spend hours playing it. I've probably spent more hours in this than any other FNAF game. It has cool animatronics, cool lore, cool ideas. I love this game, and it's likely my favorite FNAF game. It's just so cool. People did kind of want an Endless Tycoon mode, though I think that would have kind of ruined everything. I mean, you can buy a lot really quickly if you're skilled, take risk, and spend your money right. If you have infinite days, then you have no reason to really do that, ruining the entire challenge. It's so much more satisfying starting over and trying to do better. So I don't think we need an endless mode. But instead, Scott did make another mode. A mode that got so big that it became its own game. Ultimate Custom Night is a hilarious addition to the FNAF series. It's not to be a nice fun game with new mechanics and lore. It's instead meant to be a bizarre funny side game only meant to drive people insane. And it worked. People spent hours and hours, day after day, grinding to beat this game. And I don't want to do that. I didn't beat Chica's Magic Rainbow, and I'm not going to be Ultimate Custom Night. I just don't want to waste that much time grinding, but I did want to check it out, so here's my thoughts. The game doesn't just add all the animatronics together. I assumed it would take all the customized from all the games and just combine them. Instead, a lot of them work differently and in quite interesting ways. Like now, Bonnie is also in Pirate's Cove, and he gets closer when you look at him, unlike Foxy. So you have to look at a small statue on your desk to see who's there before you look. That is a cool mechanic, and it's nothing like Bonnie's done before. I mean, I get why there's so many new mechanics since there's now 50 characters. There's a ton here, and there's a lot that you might not expect. Like we have Wither Bonnie and Chica, but not Freddy and Foxy. But we do have JJ for some reason. We also didn't get all the Phantoms, or Nightmares, or Fun Times, but we did get a random Old Man Consequences, and all of the mediocre melodies, and Rockstar animatronics. It just seems bizarre. I mean, I'm not complaining, since I do like the bizarre choices, like Phone Guy is a great addition, but still, it's just bizarre. Also, a lot of the animatronics are exactly the same. Most of the mediocre melodies just do the exact same thing, which is kind of disappointing, but I still get it since you want more of them to make it harder, but still. There's also more interesting animatronics like Rockstar Foxy, who is always on even if he's off. His bird flies in, and if you tap it, he pops up and gives you something, which is a cool mechanic. Another weird animatronic is Dee Dee. I hate Dee Dee. She ran a random small minigame in FNAF World, and that's like the last time we saw her. But here, she can pop up at any time and just add more animatronics, making it harder, not only because there's more to deal with, but also because you don't know what you're dealing with. I hate it from a game design perspective, but also the game was designed to annoy you, so it's succeeding. And besides, if you don't like it, just use a DD repel, because weird power-ups exist now, because why not? But those repels don't work on Shadow DD, or as she's officially called, XOR, because why not call her that? She only shows up in 50/20 mode, where all the animatronics are on and set to max. She just adds even more animatronics. Animatronics you can't get without XOR, so you literally have no idea what they are. Again, fitting the game. So with all of them, there's a ton of animatronics, each one with their own jump scare, and they're usually not great. Because this game has 50 animatronics, each jump scare was made far worse to keep the game a small file size. Or at least I think that's the reason. But because of that, many of the jump scares are just images, and it looks really bad. I assume Scott could have just used the original ones if they would have worked in the game, but they probably just didn't. Also, if you get killed by any of the 50 animatronics, you hear a voice line.
Flash that light on the right. It can't save you now.
This idea started in Pizza Simulator, but this game is really where people loved it. Every character has a ton of voice lines that are either creepy, interesting, lore relevant, or just funny. Mr. Hippo really became a fan favorite after this one.
It seems that you have met your end. What a pity. You know, I don't feel too bad about it, though. After all, if it weren't me, it would have just been one of the others, I guess.
And they usually don't take too long, so they're not too annoying. However, something I found very annoying that you only see when you boot it up are the controls. There's a ton of them. Because there's so many animatronics to deal with, there's a ton of things you need to do, and do very quickly. So now all of your actions are mapped onto the keyboard. You can close the doors and vents, open the cameras, and everything else on the keyboard. Like on the cameras, you have a ton of different side options that you could turn on. Like turning up a backup generator that makes a ton of noise, or a universal music box that eases off most animatronics. And you can turn all of it on or off from the keyboard, so you don't even need to open the menu. Speaking of menus, there are 3 of them now, and they're just more complicated. Nothing else to say. That's it. The game also added a ton of new additions to the office, just like the cameras and options. They added a timer under the clock so you know exactly what time it is. It's a nice addition for a game as tense as this. We also get the addition of fast coins. Fast coins appear randomly throughout the cameras, and you need them to buy a few things. The most interesting of which is the death coin. Death coins can be used to basically pay animatronic to leave. That's it. If you have a lot of things to deal with, you just get rid of one, and now it's easier. It's a cool mechanic, and seeing this just makes me wish that Scott kept making simple games like this because he had a ton of good ideas. Anyways, enough stalling, let's play the game. I died. Yeah, 50/20 mode is brutal. I just tried it once or twice just to see how quickly I die, and yeah, I'm done with it. It is way too hard. Instead, I found all the animatronics that couldn't kill me, and then I just played with them on. And yay, I got a high score! However, I actually do want to play the game, so let's turn on all of FNAF 1's animatronics. It's only 4 of them, so it can't be too hard. It's still hard. You have barely any power here, and the biggest issue is trying not to use it all. I did get the hang of it, and eventually I actually won, and I got a smaller score than the time that I did nothing. Great. After that, I just tried using the presets, because why not? I tried Bear's Attack, and it was hard. So I tried Pay Attention, and it was also hard. The game's just hard, okay? I didn't try all of them because they looked crazy. However, beating more animatronics does come with a reward. Whenever you get a new high score, the game counts it all the way up from 0, which is really satisfying. And if you get enough points, you can earn a few things. Like you can unlock new offices, which is just an aesthetic change, but it's appreciated. But more interestingly, you can find mini animated sections, and these are awesome. You have something about Freddy and Foxy as I don't know, ninjas or something. And another about Toy Chica in school. These were nice rewards for playing the game, and the reason everyone wanted to get more and more points. I obviously did not get them all, because you'd have to beat the game for that, and I didn't because it's insanely hard. I respect the game for what it is, but it's just not something that I'm interested in playing. I think it's a good send-off to the original series. Scott made a collection of point-and-click horror games, and ended it with likely the best game in the series, and a nice spin-off with every character there is. Mostly. It's a great way to end the original era, especially with the fan theory that this is all just William Afton in hell. I don't know, that kinda just makes it better. But anyway, it's time to pass the torch and move on to the next FNAF era. But just like I've said in the rest of these videos, that game will have to wait. I've kind of pushed back these FNAF videos in order to focus on Nintendo, so if you came from FNAF, sorry, I probably won't be doing that much more. I mean, I'll finish the FNAF series, but then I'll just probably stop for a while. I also have it doing one game per video now, since a lot of the newer games are much bigger than the originals. Newer, they're not new anymore. But occasionally some are small, like UCN, Special Delivery, or even Fury's Rage, which I will cover. So I'll just tag them into another video like this one. I also don't plan on these videos getting a lot of views because I don't think adding UCN at the end of this video really helped with retention. I just really wanted to make these things for me and to get my opinion out there. Anyways, enough rambling, I do have to go. But with that, that's all I had to say, so thank you all for watching, and I'll see you later. Goodbye. I'm gonna die! It is very hot outside. It's like 1,000,000 degrees. And I've been in the attic for how much? Like over an hour now? Yeah, a little over an hour. It's very hot. I've been recording this for an hour. I've recorded this video in 2 parts. The first section edited and the second section edited. And it's like really long and it's really hot. And I need to go take a shower because I'm all sweaty now. So it's hot. I'm gonna get out and cool off. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. The next video is gonna be different. So see you then.